Do you have a ton of cards and other paper craft projects that you've made and they're all starting to pile up and take over your space? Well, I've got some ideas for you that will hopefully inspire you to get those cards and projects out into the world and free up some of your space. Hey guys, it's Beth. Welcome. I get asked all the time, what do you do with all those cards or all those albums that you make? And to be honest, my answer is always a little bit more complicated than it's not just a straightforward, easy answer, because I do many things with the things that I make. So if you are finding that the cards that you've made, that you love to make cards, you're using up your paper, you're having fun, but now the stuff that you've made is kind of taking over your space, I've got some ideas for you to help you share your beautiful projects, your passion with the rest of the world and spread some joy at the same time. So I have notes down in front of me, so if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. But the first and most obvious answer to this is use them. You know, if you have cards and you have not been great about sending cards out to family and friends, try to be better about that. Make sure you hit all the birthdays, send some just because cards, cards for holidays. I know I love hearing from someone electronically via email and text, but it's also always really nice to have like the actual card or letter from someone, like a handwritten note is still really special these days. So, try to make a point of sending out more cards. If you've been making journals or scrapbooks, make sure you try and use them, print those photos and put them in the scrapbook. Keep one of your journals in your purse. Use it to jot down ideas or use it to make lists. Just somehow use it, make it functional. And if you find that you have more than you'll ever be able to use yourself, which I'm sure there are a lot of us out there in that situation, I know I have been, you can also start gifting those items. I know that bundling up cards, like a batch of cards and, sticking some stamps in there is a wonderful gift, especially Mother's Day. Mother's Day is coming up. It'd be great for moms, grandmas, aunts, mother-in-laws, teachers, thank you cards for teachers right now. Teachers are getting to the end of the school year. Teacher appreciation weeks are going to be happening and they're going to be getting gifts, and just for them to have thank you cards on hands to write a note is a big thing to them. So you can also gift, if you have a friend who loves to journal, gift them a journal. But just try and make sure that you're thinking of the person, that, you're keeping them in mind with the gift that you're also gifting them, trying to match them up really well. If you still have an overabundance, then you can sell them and sell some of those items and maybe get some cash back to help offset, your crafting expenses. Get some cash flow coming in, help pay for all that adhesive that you've used, or maybe pay for a new pad. You can splurge on some new paper. But there's different ways that you can sell them as well. You could start with Facebook. If you think you're going to be selling a lot on Facebook, you will eventually need a Facebook business page to do that on, because Facebook will crack down on you. But if you're just starting out and you want to share some of the projects that you've made with, your friends on Facebook or Instagram, then by all means share those projects and just let them know that, some of these items are for sale if anybody's interested. Or sometimes if you post enough of your projects, it keeps you in the forefront of someone's mind and they're saying, hey, I need some graduation cards for the summer. Do you make graduation cards? Would you be willing to sell any of them? So that's an option. And if you're on Facebook, there's Facebook Marketplace, there's some buy-sell groups that you could get into. So just kind of keep that in mind. That's a good way to sell to friends and family. If you like in-person events, there are farmers markets coming up. I know we're getting into the summer season here. Our markets are going to be starting here later this month in May and June. So farmers markets are a good way to kind of get your stuff out there on a smaller scale, because you're usually only there for a few hours at a time, once a week. And the cost to get into a farmer's market is usually pretty reasonable. At least I know it is in our area. It would be a good inexpensive way to get yourself out there. Or if you want to go on a bigger scale, you have craft shows, and you can I would start looking for craft shows this summer if you want to get into some in the fall, because they do tend to fill up pretty quickly. If you are afraid to do one by yourself, if you have a crafty friend, maybe join up and try and do a show together. Two of my sisters did that the last couple years. Like, they just kind of combined their stuff together into one booth and shared a booth. And they just kind of, it was a moral support for each other. They didn't have to face everything on their own, you know, for the first time. And now they've both gotten comfortable enough. They do their own thing. They have their own booths. So you could do that. Or if you don't have crafty friends, just recruit a friend to come hang with you. Have it, you know, spend time together. And it's still moral support for you. And it also gives you someone there to maybe help if it gets busy, or if, you know, you need to go to the bathroom. But sometimes just the moral support really helps in making you feel more comfortable and more confident. If you would rather sell online, outside of social media, there's Etsy, eBay. You could create your own website. It is pretty easy to set up an Etsy shop right now. Like, as far as like the actual steps of opening the shop and uploading photos, just the biggest thing is you want to make sure you have really good, high quality photos, because since the online shoppers can't actually touch and feel and smell your products, they need to be able to get that full picture of what it would feel or smell like, you know, based on your photos. So I do highly recommend taking some time to get some really good photos if you're going to go that route. If you don't want to sell, and that's totally fine, that's not everybody's cup of tea, maybe you don't want to waste the time on that, donate. There are tons of places that you can donate your items, whether it be cards or other paper craft goods. I have a list here, and then I also have a blog post that I will link below that actually has some of the card charities I'm going to mention. They will be linked, and so you can go to those individual websites and see, you know, what each organization is about, what they require, you know, what they're asking for, all that. So for card charities, I'll just kind of run through the list here real quick. Some of them you probably already heard of. Cards for Soldiers, you hear me talk about that one all the time. Cards for Hospitalized Kids, Card Care Connection, Send a Smile for Kids, Operation Gratitude, Cards for Kids, Cards for Seniors, Cards for Cancer, Bring Smiles to Seniors, Cards for Kindness, and then Cards for Cubs. So all of those that I've listed, they are based in the U.S., so I apologize to you non-U.S. folks. I'm just not aware of any, I have not needed to access any of the non-U.S. organizations yet. So if you are outside the U.S. and know of organizations that accept cards, then let me know, and I can add them to my list and my links on my blog post so that, you know, others outside the U.S. would be able to have access to that. But all of these organizations have different requirements and guidelines. Some of them ask for you to send in your blank handmade cards. Some require envelopes, some don't. Some like a message inside. Cards for Soldiers actually requires an envelope and a cellophane sleeve that you include your card and envelope in, because they've had issues with cards getting, you know, the stuff falling off the cards before it even gets to them, and they can pass it on. So just make sure that you check out all the links on the organizations you're interested in to figure out, you know, sometimes they're only looking for specific card themes too. So you have to keep that in mind, but just pay attention and see what their guidelines are and then what they require you to do. And these also would require you to ship your cards off. I know shipping has gotten expensive. So you can, some of the websites you can check and they will actually have tips on how to minimize your shipping costs. Cards for Soldiers is really good about giving you tips on how to minimize your cost. I know there was one other, Operation Gratitude, I think, has certain boxes that you can use that ship cheaper. If you don't have a ton of cards, you can use the padded flat rate envelopes, and that's actually pretty feasible cost-wise. But just keep that in mind as well. And if you don't want to pay shipping, then you can look into some local resources that you could just, you know, hand deliver or drop off. And that would be maybe your best options. As far as local places, you can check libraries. They love bookmarks, especially summer reading is coming up. So I know our library always passes out like bookmarks and pencils and stuff during summer reading as like mini prizes each week. You can check libraries, and sometimes they also have auctions or sales. I know, again, our library has a holiday sale around Christmas time each year, and it's like artists and makers in the area will donate these items, and then the library sells it, and they get to keep the profit for that to help pay for all of their funding of their programs. Churches can a lot of times use your cards, and sometimes they'll take other prayer related items. It just depends on the church. Retirement homes will a lot of times take cards. Sometimes they use them for the residents, and you will need to write something inside. Sometimes they will accept them so that the residents can send them out to their family and friends. You just need to check with the staff to see what it is that they need. Schools, I have donated cards to the schools for teachers to use for family and friends. I've donated small paper craft gifts for teacher appreciation, staff appreciation events, and bookmarks for the library to use. And then our school also had like prize boxes for some of the grades. Like at the end of each week, the kids get to pick something out of a prize box. So that's another option that they might accept for as well. Animal rescues. I know I've donated to our local Humane Society for an auction that they've done as a fundraiser. And so I kind of donated some bigger items for them to sell, and then they get to keep that money for whatever it sells for. Sarah from Crafting and Relaxing donates cards to one of her local rescues, and then that rescue uses the cards to send out to people who've adopted the pets and just to thank them for adopting. Other local charities will a lot of times take items for raffles or auctions, and it doesn't have to be big items that would stand alone. You can donate small items that they can use as gift basket fillers. A lot of times you'll see a big basket full of stuff like at an auction or a raffle, and so sometimes you can just use some smaller items to fill that. And you're not always going to hear like specific needs from some of these local organizations. So if you know of organizations or if you have connections with them in some way, reach out to them. Like let them know that you have a bunch of cards. Like, can they use them in any way? Or, if they have an auction, ask if you can donate something. So just keep those in mind. And sometimes you will have to make an effort to seek out the information or let that organization know that you are willing to help. So hopefully that gives you a bunch of ideas on what you can use all of those fun, beautiful handmade projects that you've been collecting and stocking up in your craft space. I know when people ask me, going back to, I think, a question I mentioned in the beginning, people ask me, what do I do with all those cards that they see me make? And it's really a mix. I try to use some on my own for friends and family. I do gift some things. I sell, we do craft shows, we have an online store, and then I also donate a lot of cards, both to local organizations and to some of those, online charities that I have to like send the cards away to. I donate a lot, and it makes me feel good that my crafting can benefit someone else. So it's just nice to be able to spread the joy, spread the love. So if you are in a situation where the items that you've made are taking over your space, consider some of these items. Again, check the description box below for the blog post that will have some more details about all of the items that I've listed, and then the links to those card charities. Again, if you know of something that I didn't list, let me know in the comments below. If you have links to places outside the US, let me know in the comments below, or just general ideas for outside the US. I want to know those as well. But hopefully this helps you guys. Thank you so much for your time, and hope you all have a very crafty day.